Welcome back to the Plus Side of Nashville. My guest is Sara Figal. She's the president and executive director of the Nashville Conflict Resolution Center, a nonprofit that provides free mediation services to those in the community who need it. Sara, before we went to the break, we were talking about those folks who have the skill, who are crafted in mediation and facilitation. Who are your mediators? Because it takes a special person.
It takes a special person, but it doesn't take any particular background.
Okay.
And this is what we say. Anybody with the psychological disposition can be a mediator. And we have professional and volunteers from all walks of life, all different backgrounds. We do train them. Because we partner with the courts, we train according to certain Tennessee Supreme Court requirements. So all of our mediators are, well, they not only go through that curriculum, we keep them, you know, constantly honing their skills, their human communication skills. And when we train, I emphasize that I think the trickiest part of being a good mediator is understanding how complicated neutrality is. Because on the one hand, it doesn't mean lofty and aloof with everybody. It means being unconditionally supportive with everybody, regardless of what in your personal life you may feel, you know? Yeah. So mediators have to learn to check their norms and their values at the door. And start by understanding what is normal for the participants, because that is the ground from which a solution has to grow, if it's going to be a healthy solution that lasts. And many people will come to us and say, I'd love to volunteer, I'd love to help, because I feel very passionate about helping this group of people or that group of people or this issue. And those are incredibly important advocates, and they are often terrible mediators because they can't recognize that someone with a different belief system, for example, deserves equally to be heard and deserves equally to be supported by this process.
Yes. Absolutely. And I see skills of, like, you have to be empathetic, but you can't be biased and just willing to listen to both sides. Your own point of view may even change, you know, at some points of view, but you have to keep those to yourself. So, yeah, I can see how that would be. Great job for mediators. I really respect that. I talked about at the beginning of the show how right now, with the pandemic, so many new issues must have cropped up that you've had to deal with in the last year or almost 2 years. How are you helping families right now in mediation?
Right. Aside from the issues around families and their housing problems, one of the interesting ways we have really helped is working, providing mediation for middle school and high school students with their parents. Or sometimes where, you know, real friction has occurred in the home because of quarantine and because just all of the factors have come into play.
We're spending so much time together.
Yeah, and you know, and sometimes teenagers decide to walk out the door, or sometimes parents become even more controlling. And I mean, there are many, many things that can and do go wrong. And sometimes, you know, siblings are crowded into rooms where usually they wouldn't have to spend all day crowded together into rooms. And so we've been able to provide mediation both in person and remotely as appropriate. That helps in ways I never would have imagined.
Right.
Honest to God, before the pandemic, I would not have thought it possible that we could have a mediation with mom, 16-year-old and 12-year-old on a phone at their house.
Right.
And facilitate a conversation that starts with everybody, you know, against a wall, ready with their positions, and ending with, okay, I didn't realize you feel that way. I wouldn't have said that if I knew, and I know I blew it, so next time I feel that way, I'm going to do this instead, and, you know. It's very gratifying.
I'm sure. You've had to, as we say, the pandemic pivot. We've had to learn how to do things via Zoom and on the phone and all, and it's worked.
In astounding ways. And we never would have thought, for instance, we do a lot of work. Well, we've also worked with people who have workplace problems. I mean, if you think about it, there are so many hot button issues right now with masking and vaccinations and who gets to work from home and who has to be in a 9 to 5 again. And there are just so many, and then maybe Delta variant goes up and maybe not. And there's so many unexpected, unanswered questions. And there are people coming back to work who've never seen each other in person before because maybe they were hired during the pandemic.
We have a lot of that right here at News Channel 5.
And, learning to create kind of new boundaries and new communication patterns is really important. So before things become unmanageable or hurts start to fester, we are able to have mediation sessions, whether it's with 2 people or 15 people. Now, if we have 15 people involved in an issue, for instance, we did one mediation with a civic organization, and there were some cultural issues on the table, real different cultural issues. In that case, mediation involved a few sessions with small groups, and then a final mediation with the entire group. But these work. And again, they may have more work to do when we're finished, but everyone leaves with a deeper, clearer perspective, and the fight or flight response is relaxed.
Yes.
So they're ready to think.
And that's the goal. Well, I would love to talk when we come back from this next break. I know there's probably some people that you don't work with. And so I want to talk about the restrictions and who is it that maybe you don't work with. We'll be back with more right after this.